you guys are just tuning in, this is game 2, and normally we have 5, maybe even 6 games depending on the format, but this is the upper bracket, which means 3 games total. So there's only 2 shots left for these teams to rise up that leaderboard and advance to the grand finals in the top 25 due to consistency. So if you had a good game in that last one, you're actually onto the right track.
Take a look at this. Haijo Kaido looking like they might have this drop spot uncontested now. You can see Truly and Ace Frack were the ones contesting them, but now they're kind of in the outskirts for Stroke and Ravon, though. They're going to have to be careful as X-Swedes is actually going to be looking to pick up that first elimination now. Should probably go assist his duo partner. That's in another 1 versus 1. If Ravon goes down here, it's all over.
Well, I would love to see him just kind of rush through that door on the other side. He had the opportunity. He still does. Oh! Gets that first knock. He did end up off the launch pad, but he goes down. X-Squeeze just threaded the needle right there. Sewing that patch on. W off the off-spawn fight.
More than 10 teams contesting each other so far, according to the drop map. A lot of off-spawn engagements throughout the day. That was a close one for X-Squeeze, though. If he wasn't able to connect that last shot, I don't think he had a shotgun, so you can even see with the third party coming through now. Even now, this is incredibly dangerous. Yeah,
that's Chromatic and Lox. That was that team that contested Haijo and Kaido in that last game, dropping all over the island today, just trying to catch some of these teams off guard. We've seen that used as a strategy in the past, and it has worked out. But sometimes it takes more than just trying it out on game day for it to work. You got to be able to practice it. At least the different loop paths to try to catch some of these teams off guard. Even if you have the elevation here, it's not going to be the easiest thing to try to drop down and fight this team down below. Especially if they crash pad away.
I think Chroma knows exactly how much HP his opponents have. I mean, they know they just got out of an engagement, but they don't know if they destroyed them, and they both have 200 effective HP and shield. If they're low, we're just kind of taking a look at the situation, seeing how much of an advantage they might have before fully committing to anything, but they weren't interested for Nebs and Kiruo, though. Once again, it looks like they might have came out on top here at Grim Gate.
They're taking out like 2 birds with 1 stone here at Grim Gates. They're getting their POI, they're making it off spawn, getting up that leaderboard, but they're also pushing Toos and Karmi not only out of the POI, but taking them down, making sure like, hey, even if you guys go down to lower bracket, we're going to try to demoralize you, lessen the chance of you coming back. That way, when it comes to the FNCS finals, if they make it there, they have it more than likely uncontested.
Back at the new kind of POI that appeared a couple days ago. Still haven't seen anything really new happen from this area, even though there are some new items. We'll see how this fight concluded, though. Asa, who got knocked early in the match last game, if I'm not mistaken, now looking to come out on top with an elimination. Vico Flixie back at Reckless Railways. They're fully uncontested, right?
Yeah, as of now, they're fully uncontested. But we do see teams rotate in towards Reckless Railways, especially depending on where the zone goes. And they do have access to that forecast tower that spawns just south of Reckless Railways if they do want to try to claim it for themselves. That has been a part of their strategy throughout the weekend, which has kind of helped in terms of their consistency. The other team that likes to beeline for him, Chap Teeny, making sure to push every team off. But Teeny taking just a little bit too much damage, 40 HP. Does have the shields to get back up to tip-top shape, but he needs Chap to buy the time. And with him getting dropped down low and focus, it might not have been the way they expected to buy the time, but they got it nonetheless.
The second most consistent duo yesterday, Chap and Teeny. Do not want to go down early here. They did their damage, but now that the third party's close by, I doubt they're going to continue with their aggression. They are going to replenish their dashes by stepping in the water, pop that Flowberry Fizz, and now with a little crash pad, continue with their rotation. But am I mistaken? They want a piece of the pie. They're more hungry. They're not done yet. The cola's been popped. Are they going to keep pushing?
Part of me wants to say yes, part of me wants to say no. There's still that forecast tower back there that they haven't necessarily claimed. And then further and further they rotate away from it. More and more comfortability happen with some of these other teams, probably to try to rotate in and kind of claim it for themselves. But it is zone 1. It is really early for that forecast tower to start to come into play. So they're probably trying to condition a lot of these teams.
look by Lavish Lair. Looks like Twee and Jakey from a difficult early game in game number 1, where Jakey was left alone, to now being on the opposite end here, picking up another elim. Not too much is going to happen, though. They're just going to continue now with their mid-game rotations. We haven't seen a lot go on around the Lavish Lair side of the map. A lot of the engagements have been a bit more south, or even on the east side.
Yeah, typically what I've noticed is a lot of the teams that even land Lavish, they kind of loot up, and then they either move towards the north to try to go after Surge and those bunkers that do spawn there, or obviously this season they immediately try to beeline it towards the south, grab one of them cactuses. Not a lot of action actually goes down around Lavish Layer unless teams are rotating in, like we did see. Slove and Nate, they already got a sense with only 1 elimination so far that somebody else is floating around here. A solo.
Ooh.
That's 4 points that they could definitely use to try to get themselves higher up on that leaderboard, especially since it's already game 2.
Do they know? Do they know? They know there's a player in the somewhere, but you can see how much cover that kind of little rock actually gives. It reminds me, that rock reminds me of like a mini version, you know, I forget what the POI was called. It was like a shark. It's like a big shark rock on the water.
Man, I'm really drawing a blank, but I know I used to land there. I know, you know, the NA boys, you know, Rogue Shark, Knight, they used to kind of land over there as well.
Oh, way back.
Yeah, that's way back. I don't think anybody even remembers their name. A full generation of players have come in, and I know it's a different region. Yanis and Pixie, kind of business as usual. They don't always leave Brawler's Battleground right away. They like to loot it up to the fullest, knowing that do have the cactuses later on in terms of getting their Storm Surge. So they don't necessarily have to beeline it right away like a lot of these other teams on the north side of the map do.
Just got yelled at by Levin, telling me it was literally called the shark, but
see, I was,
you know, it's part of the
thinking
fun.
that, but I thought it was just too obvious there. But Levin does so.
That's true, he does. Cade Marine, or should I say just Cade, as now he's been left alone. 92 points already for this duo. They are in first place, leading the pack, even though they didn't get the initial victory royale. We saw how dominant Cade was in that late game, almost annihilating Murstache and Malabuka. 9 eliminations, I believe, is what they finished with. But if Cade ends up going down now, it could be detrimental.
Yeah, they're just trying to double Nitro into the box. He does the right thing, change layers, but get cut off on the other side. Nice shot to back down one. Avahalo and Low-Key, they're kind of reassessing the situation like, hey, is this something we want to actually do? Flowberry fizzing on the low ground. And I think they heard that crash pad. They heard Cade try to disengage. He goes outside of the zone knowing, hey, if I'm going to get a reboot on Marine, this is one of the only ways to do it. I have to stagger myself back, sacrifice the storm damage, which lessens the chance that Cade can win heal off later in the same game.
Oof, be careful though. Neb's going to get cracked with a single shot. The deal in Reason going to choose to split up a little bit here as Vidal continues to hunt for tags. This is close to where Queasy and Thomas HD like to box up as well. In the last match, Queasy somehow got knocked down while trading tags. So hopefully they don't overcommit once again.
Yeah, that's something we saw as we tuned into them last game. Queasy barely getting revived back up by Thomas. Luckily, they had the cactus, some extra heals over there for them to use. But you can see almost every single game, game in and game out, they go over towards Shipwreck Shallows. They grab one of these cactuses, build the tower maybe like 5 layers high, maybe even 6. And then they obviously grab their roof so they don't get crash padded on and try to grab as much surge as possible. But depending on whether if they get a scope or not in these DMRs really determines how much storm surge they're actually able to get. Because you notice they don't go for a bunker almost at any stage of the game. So they're kind of relying on that floor loot of a DMR having it thermal or some sort of scope.
This is the first time throughout the semifinals where the game winners are still playing after they took home the win. As we can see, Flip Monk and fire in here. Going up against, I was going to say just one duo, but there seems to be two. It's an all-out battle now. 3 different teams at Mount Olympus.
It's kind of easy rotation, though.
Yeah, I don't think any of them are going to fully commit to anything. And like you said, the rotation in this side of the map, you do have a lot of environmental launch pads, which can be put to good use here. I believe that's where Haijo and Kaido are actually heading towards right now. Or maybe they just want to claim the hill and see kind of where this zone closes.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a little bit of sacrifice for them if they do want to stay here. I like the idea of it, especially the zone continues to pull over there. It's just the big question is how much surge did they get in the early game, because a lot of the players are not necessarily boxed up on that side of the map. Mustache and Malibuka still floating around red line rig. They haven't had the need to kind of push out too far just yet. They have a lot of the cactuses replenish HP to replenish those shields. They can rotate in late, try to get some shots on a lot of these other teams that are coming in from the south, that are from the west, that might try to rotate south to the slower side of the zone. And I think that's what they've been using game in and game out. They're not necessarily relying on cactuses every step of the way.
I want to see a win from Mustache Malibuka today. I want to see it happen. We didn't get to see it in day 1, 2. I think they've been baiting us a little bit, Jacob. They just kind of want to get their practice in before grand finals. But, you know, the joke's over. You can do it now. I've waited long enough. Podosai Snazy, though, put into a bit of danger. Podosai has been fully cracked.
Interesting that they're not just pushing in as Haijo Kaido. They probably got a couple shots that they wanted. You saw them rotating out of Mount Olympus last time we saw them. This time around, they're getting much more confident in this situation. And they're a team that needs to have a decent game here. Don't really have too many points so far, which means if they fall flat here in game 2, they're going to really leave it all on the line, and they're almost going to be mimicking the format of yesterday, where they need a big win in order to get into that threshold.
This is a similar zone to last match. Once again, pulling towards kind of the northeast, east side of the map here. We talked about it previously, but there's a lot of mountains and ridges and changes in elevation, which could be potential danger during the moving zones. As we take a look at Cade once again, I don't think this was even his engagement. There was another 2 duos fighting. He had lost Marine even a couple zones ago, I believe, as now he's kind of just waiting. I wonder if he wants to scavenge a bit of loot or maybe even catch a player off guard.
Yeah, I believe they just... I think he got Marine back into the game, and unfortunately enough, he just went down right here, right now. So Cade has no choice but to wait it out. Mystic and Maxi, they probably heard the reboot off into the distance. They probably need Surge since they are landing at the north side of the map, and they said, hey, this is going to be the best shot. This might even be the only shot we have to get some isolated Surge while all the rest of the teams have rotated in. You were just talking about the zone moving towards the east around Mount Olympus, which means everybody on this side of the map, whether you go now or later, has one of the farther distances to cover.
Once again, Mustache Malibuka being the first to claim the Rift Island here. They've made their little base. They've captured the flag. And being already 423 damage above, they don't need much more, but we know how confident this duo is mechanically, how well they can play aggressively. So for the duos trying to contest them, looking for that damage, they're just going to play defensive, and all it's going to take is one big shot to allow them to close it out.
Yeah, they're feeling confidence on the outside to try to get his piece control. Another team uses the Rift just to grab a spot on the island, not even necessarily to fight it out. They want to get Surge, but when you have a team that's below on damage above the island, of course some chaos is going to break out. Malibuka Mustache taking a little bit advantage of that, trading some shots, but you see the medallion getting dropped. Mustache is trying to replenish the shield. They do have med kits for the HP as well. But that team is still fighting it out towards the side, and that's because of Surge is just forcing them to interact with each other. They have less and less control over their game plan once you fall below that threshold.
105, now 112 above. Teammate gone down. Is the 2v1 the play here? Are you feeling confident enough? As now with a slow disengagement, gonna reposition themselves right back into their tarp and kind of play it a bit slower here. It is difficult to get a reboot this far in the match, so might be forced to play it out as a solo. Issue is the opposing team knows you're also alone, so if they're feeling aggressive enough or need a bit of extra damage, they might just end up making a play towards you.
And I feel like the only team that's even safe on top of Rift Island right now, a little crevices there, is Reason and Vidil finally turning things on, getting a little bit more aggressive. Karmi's down, so is Toos, and they may have made it out of Grim Gates this game, but they didn't make it very far. And those are two eliminations that I think Reason and Vidil need. Not necessarily for the leaderboard, obviously that helps, but they land over towards Brutal Beachhead. They get the medallion. They have infinite nitro, at least one of them does, and they have the ability to break into a lot of these boxes. I want to see them take a little bit more risk taking down some of these teams that they're fighting and close the time it's taking to finish these fights.
Well, it's working out so far. They're looking incredibly strong in terms of basically everything, except for now that the pressure's on them. They do have the builds to hold it off, but even then, they're going to use a lot of materials for this rotation as they still have a ways to go. There are rifts that spawn under the Rift Island, but I'm not sure how many are going to be free so far, as normally those duos will base up on them as quickly as possible. So another crash pad is going to be placed, but they have found a rift, so this should be enough to get them into zone.
Yeah, the crash pad will only take you so far. The rift will not only allow you to cover further distances, but you get information just like this will allow Reason and Vidil to make this decision, get on top of the Rift Island, and they can always drop down low, get a rift. There is launch pads out here, so there's a lot of mobility still to be had. What, one chaotic fight to one that's slowing down, backside of zone in Mount Olympus still. Teeny's already down. Game one winners already feeling a little bit of that stress, but at least they're above the threshold, so Storm Surge not necessarily a worry for now. He's making sure this elimination does get solidified. 4 more points for their total before it does look like he has to rotate on out.
How long have they been fighting for here? I mean, they've been in Mount Olympus for, what, since 3rd, 4th zone? Just taking shots at each other. There was 3 duos here before. One of them left. Now it was Chap and Teeny up against Flipmuck and Firein, but now it looks like the engagement might come to an end as Chap has been fully cracked once again. 20 white, and I don't think he has enough time here to pop a med kit. He has healed a little bit, though.
He has a small fry still. Flopper on the other side with med kits, small fries with med kits. That's keeping Chap just healthy enough to be able to run away, and that way he doesn't get his med kit canceled out. Nice right-hand peek by Chap. Flipmuck is still on the chase, and I feel like this is almost a no-win scenario for both of these teams, but you got to imagine at least a little bit is edge on over to them. Oof. Now I'm worried. Now I'm worried. 13 HP. It's only a matter of time. And now he has all those med kits that you're talking about, the floppers, a lot of extra resources, and a free reboot just outside of Mount Olympus.
I got faith, Jacob. We're going to see Flipmon back in the game. It might be 10th or 11th zone when he finally makes it. But he's going to make it back, mark my words. Quick replay of how he ended up getting those 2 eliminations. But in all seriousness, I think he should be able to make it back quite quickly. They do have launch pads. They have a lot of natural mobility to do so. It's just going to be the reboot, getting his duo partner back in, Firein, getting him looted up, kitted up, and ready for a bit more action. This is going to be a difficult zone. It is a mountainous area, so these players are going to have to be prepared and try and keep themselves as elevated as possible. However, that is difficult, especially if you don't have a lot of materials to work with or you are a solo. But look at Kiduo. He's claimed quite a nice position. Storm Surge is ticking, though. 7th and 8th zone is where it is genuinely or generally most active, as you can see. Flixie. Nice knock.
Flixie needs to stay alive. They have 8 points. 8 points, 16 now that he's doubled up with a full-on duo wipe, but you don't want to leave it until that last and final game to qualify, especially when you were considered one of the most consistent teams. They're probably looked at as one of the favorites to win the actual FNCS, and now you're falling short of those expectations. Top 28, which means placement points have yet to even set in, so this is big. Flixie doesn't have to win the game here, but he needs to get so close to that top 25 threshold, maybe even top 10 to get half of the points to give him and Vico much more of a chance.
Uncontested Reckless Railways, almost basically an uncontested forecast tower. They have everything they need to play it out, but now left as a solo. We'll see if Flixie can hold on. Just like Kiduo, so many solos trying to play it out here. Issue is for Kiduo, he is 68 below. good news is he's elevated enough to have opportunities to make some shots, but he's going to have to land them.
And then he has an exit plan there with the launch pad, but it does get coned off momentarily, so neither one of these teams are going to be able to use it, but he's constantly staying ahead of the curve, trying to cut him off. And when he realizes he doesn't have the advantage anymore, he goes back to doing surge. Everything is going through his mind right now. The checklist of things to do: defend myself, get surge. Now it's heal up. That just appeared on his checklist, but he has to go ahead and make it to zone first if he wants to buy that time. He is a solo, and he's so low right now, 108 below the damage threshold. Everything is coming crashing down for Kiduo, but this is what champions are made of. If you're able to dig deep and pull out a big game here, I gotta respect you for that.
Now down to 171 below. He has the Flowberry, he has the med kits, but once this zone starts ticking, the time is going to run low. You can see Storm Surge is already active. Kiduo now is running out of options. He has Flixie close by, which is another solo, but he doesn't know that. This is going to be incredibly difficult.
It's a breath of fresh air. Storm Surge turned off. Thank you, he says to the rest of the lobby, for taking down enough players for me to survive. Now he can start thinking proactively. 92 builds, 2 medkits, no shields. He needs a refresh to try to get those shields back. Not necessarily for the materials, but he has some time and some flexibility to do it. And that's why he's peeking through the cone to get that information, pinpointing where these duos at. Maybe trying to find a solo. Who can I attack?
The zone has pulled southwest. It's going to be getting closer to the Mount Olympus side, which means it's a big drop in elevation that these players are going to have to do. But the issue with that is if zone pulls back up, you go down, up, down, up. Those drastic changes in elevation is what use a lot of materials, and especially if you don't have items to kind of help you with your rotation. It could lead to your end, but for Malabuka and Merstash, they want to prepare for these situations, and that's exactly why they've just hunted down a nice little impact frag. Unfortunately, did not give them a lot of loot, but still, those 4 points are going to come in handy.
I was thinking Chroma was going to be able to get out and maybe have a solo clutch, but he went down that mountain and instantly got taken down altogether. Reason and Fadil still finding these opportunities to get some damage, staying well above the damage threshold. You can see they're not necessarily rushing. They do have the crash pad, the Flowberry Fizz. The longer they stagger themselves, the more effect they're going to get out of it. And even though Malabuka and Merstash are high above the clouds for now, you see how drastic of a pull that is going to be down that mountain. All those players below, if they don't have builds to build this cushion, Malabuka and Merstash will have to expend more and more of their resources.
This is huge. These are some of the best zones if you're holding height. You can get the zone to pull back, and it's going to be incredibly difficult for the players down below to try and overthrow you because of the amount of materials that they're going to have to use on this rotate. You also have to keep in mind where you want to position yourself before that zone closes. Flixie picks up a quick elimination onto Flipmonk. This is huge. He's been playing as a solo throughout this whole end game, but he's still looking like he can't be stopped with 3 eliminations, 700 damage above. And he's just getting started with his rotate.
Every single point this game is off the back of Flixie. And he's inching themselves closer. Like I say, you don't need that big win. You just need to get as close to the top side of the leaderboard as possible as Pixie gets taken down, separated from Yanis, who is out of builds. 1 mini left to his name. He is down, and he is down bad as Reason scrambles around. Him and Fadil just get tagged up. HP and Shield drop down low, but Peekaboo tries to land a surprise shot, but Nate is the one who's left standing.
Be careful up above. Merstash, Malabuka have lost the high ground. They're now down in the snow, as it looked like it's going to be Artist that's up above. Pablo and his duo going ahead.
Stame, I expect to see just a little bit more throughout the qualifier process, but glad to have you here nonetheless. Now it's time to make something of these games that you are able to play as high ground changes hands yet again. Artist and Fire Hunter, they're the ones well above everybody else, and they're attacking that second height. They don't have enough builds to tarp out, so it's either disengage off of this or continue to try to go layer for layer against this team that's right below you.
It's the only option they have, but Merstash realized that and capitalizes on the situation, securing the knock, but he's lost his duo partner. Malabuka is down with just 18 HP and a dream. No materials to work with. Merstash is forced back in the dirt, and he needs to find an elimination.
Oh, there's a couple medkits out there, but he doesn't have enough HP to go back there and get them. There's builds as well, everything that he needs. But Pablo peeks through the cone along with Bevies. They take him down. You see the medallion scrambled all around the map. They're using all this chaos down below as a distraction. They easily move up a layer and towards the front side of the zone.
Voltiax, Cool, now going to be the new high ground kings. Meanwhile, the couple duos down below are going to have to battle it out. If they have the potential to connect to this ridge, it could be enough, but they got to keep the pressure down below. It's a potential for a lot of eliminations. Art skill goes down. Pablo and his duo incredibly low on HP. Voltiax and Cool might just be able to clean this up from above.
If they ran out of builds, they can no longer connect, but Cool is dropping down even with the med kit. He doesn't need it. 1v2 situation. Kashi goes down. Cool and Voltiax cash in all the way from the southeast portion of the map. Welcome to the top side of the leaderboard, brothers.
Great way to finish off the match. You can see how little materials, how little HP and shield all the players down below had from that difficult rotation. So the duo up above was able to clean it up with ease. But Jacob, that's already the second match of the upper bracket. Now there's just one more opportunity for these players to get top 25. If you're Voltiax, if you're Cool, you're going to be feeling great after that match. But for the players that went down early, it is going to be difficult. Congratulations to Voltiax and Cool. I think with that victory royale, they should be feeling more than confident enough to make it in that top 25. We'll see what kind of the estimate is looking like, but before that, we're gonna have to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back for the last match of the upper bracket. See you soon.